أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. Today we're going to discuss about the Ruh, and the Prophet ﷺ said the Ruh of a believer is like a bird that rests in the tree of Jannah until returns it to the body on the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrects him. This is in Muwatta Malik book 16, Hadith number 50. And this Hadith is such a profound, it gives us a profound window into the nature of the believer's ruh, that it goes into the Jannah as a bird, sitting within the trees, and we will see from this hadith that what actually is this ruh really craving for. And if you want to listen to it again, the ruh of the believer is like a bird that rests in the trees of Jannah. So, what does that mean? The ruh is naturally drawn to Jannah. Is that true? Looks like, yeah, because before coming to this world, we all were in alam arwah, where we promised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we took the oath of Ahl Alast that yes, Allah, you are our Rabb. And the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us in this hadith that the ruh of a believer is not heavy, it's not dark, it's not trapped, it is rather light, pure. It's naturally inclined towards Jannah, towards paradise, just like a bird which seeks elevation, purity, freedom, and light. And it wants that closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the ruh responds so quickly to dhikr, azkar, Quran, fasting, any deeds which are done with sincerity for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ikhlas. And the ruh recognizes what it was created for. The ruh is not tied down by the bodily desires. The body is just a temporary container. The hadith also shows that the ruh is not limited to the physical form. So this is why you feel that when you sleep and you go in deep sleep, the ruh it leaves the body, and all of you have, of course, experienced this. And then it just, it goes and feels free wherever it wants, and bismillah, wherever it wants to travel. And it dreams. It has these future eclipses. It has uh, memories from the back, and the ruh has a lot of memories. It exactly knows why it's coming on the world, in the world. It knows its mission, and it keeps on reminding a believer who has these, subdued characteristics, who is fighting with its nafs, fighting with the hamzat. And this is why ruh cannot be defined by, illness, fatigue, stress, trauma, emotional heaviness, because ruh is very much bigger than the bodily diseases, than the physical diseases, than what is just, visible to us, and the trauma of the visible um, pressures. Because the ruh is very old and it was born when all the arwah were created, so it's also a purer form than the body. And this is why we say that fasting actually quiets the body, so a person gets connected with the ruh. This allows the ruh to rise. The ruh becomes more receptive when, like I said, the body is subdued. And the hadith describes the ruh as a bird in Jannah. SubhanAllah. It's free, it's elevated, it's unburdened. But in dunya, it's limited, and the ruh is placed inside a body which is limited. It gets hungry, it gets tired, it gets emotional, it gets distracted, gets overwhelmed, it gets burnt out. So fasting is temporarily, it loosens the grip of the body on the ruh, allowing the ruh to rise and return to its natural state, return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during its worship, during the rituals, during salah, during adkar, become light, elevated, receptive, connected, and spiritually awakened. And make those connections with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you can do it with mindfulness, it's called muraqabah in Sufism, where you just connect, you stop the dhikr of lisan and you start and listening to the heart. And when the heart beat lab dub, with every heartbeat you have Allah, 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 and then you just listen to that, that connection, that when your every organ of the body is doing dhikr of Allah. And this is why Ramadan feels so different, because there's no rush of going in the kitchen, cooking, preparing meals, preparing breakfast, lunch, dinner. You have time for dhikr and adhkar. And the Ruh is closer to its original home, subhanAllah. And it responds to the environments of purity. So the hadith says that the Ruh rests in the trees of Jannah. Why the trees of Jannah? Because it just shows that a believer wants to return to peace, clarity. He wants to return to purity, to the divine light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the divine, the he wants to be in the qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ramadan creates a taste of that environment. The gates of mercy, rahmah, open. The big devils, like I said, Ifrit, Iblis, and the big ones, they are chained, but the small ones are still open. So if you're working on the purification of your soul, purification of the Ruh, then you will make sure that you create an environment which amplifies that, which purifies your soul, and the nights are filled with angels. So the Ruh becomes more receptive because the spiritual environment resembles the place where it longs for. That's, again, Jannah, inshallah. The Ruh is always alive, and fasting simply awakens it, because we know that the Ruh never dies, and the body can die, it can decompose, but the Ruh, it leaves this world and goes in the barzakh. The hadith shows that the Ruh of a believer never dies. It can transition, and it remains aware, it's alive. We have no ilm of whether the Ruh of a believer can come back to this world or not, but it is said that Shaheeds, they have this advantage and this permission of going and traveling back and forth anywhere they want. SubhanAllah, in Ramadan, when the body is quiet and the nafs is softened, the Ruh becomes more sensitive and intuitive. So this is the time to become spiritually more aware of your feelings, to work on your feelings, what things are bringing you down, stopping you from that guidance, from that connection, to establish the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is basically receptivity. It's just simply called receptivity, which you feel when the Ruh is awakening from beneath the noise of dunya. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the Ruh of a believer is like a bird resting in the trees of Jannah, light, elevated, naturally drawn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I just pray that may your Ruh return with this receptivity, and it receives the divine light, inshallah, this Ramadan. Ma salam.